Welcome to Recogs, the inventory success podcast where we discuss how the top operators source, manufacture, finance, and sell their inventory in order to create successful businesses. I'm your host, Mike Gelb. I'm the community manager here at Manufactured.com. Manufactured is the inventory success platform for consumer and B2B companies. Now, what do we mean when we say inventory success? Well, we help SMBs manufacture, finance, and distribute their products across 20 categories. If you're looking for help reducing your COGS, or you're looking for inventory financing or selling to new channels, we're happy to see if we can help at Manufactured.com. Not only do we produce content that we hope is helpful and valuable by talking with successful operators, but we also produce events around the country to help bring the consumer ecosystem together. If you would like to get involved, which we would love to have you involved, check out manufactured.com/events to subscribe. The link is also located in the show notes. Now, I know this is a free podcast, but it doesn't mean we don't have a favor. If you're enjoying this show, if you can please subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you're listening to this podcast so you don't miss out in order when the next episode is, that'd be amazing. If you can also leave us a review on the Apple Podcast, that would really mean a lot. Our guest today is Emily Heintz, who is the CEO and founder of Sèshay. Sèshay makes premium adult-free beverages and mindful drinking. I find Emily's story pretty fascinating and quite different to some of the previous guests that we've had. Different because she didn't start by launching a non-alcoholic brand. Brand meaning an actual physical product, a CPG line, right? What she started was being an actual online retailer of other brands and actually doing wholesale and purchasing at wholesale and selling wholesale and even hand delivering non-alcoholic beverages from a whole bunch of brands that she admired in her hometown. And then of course, also packaging them, sending them to mail, and also distributing them nationally as well, where people would buy from Sèshay. So she really, really did a great job of bringing the community together of people that did want to buy and shop non-alcoholic beverages and create a platform, which was Sèshay. From there, she then launched her own CPG line, Sèshay, where she was able to actually get into Target nationwide and also collaborate with other brands too, brands that she loves, in order to have this curation process in Target. It's a very quite unique way where you start off as a retailer and then you actually go and launch your own brand. I think it's really cool. So we're gonna talk to Emily about how she did it, what is the vision moving forward, how Target is going, and also how that all happened. Talking to Target, and was it Target that reached out? Was it her that reached out? How did that actually formulate? And also how she thinks about partners with other brands and competition, of course. Without further ado, here's Emily. Emily, thank you so much for taking the time. How are you doing?
Doing well. Thanks so much for having me. Excited to talk shop.
Excited to talk everything non-alc. So why don't I start from the very beginning? What was the insight or moment that first of all, how did you get introduced to non-alcohol brands, non-alc wine, non-alc beer, non-alc hard alcohol, and as well as where did you decide to take the leap and actually be part of this industry?
Well, it started in the heart of the pandy when we were all at home, right? Just drinking and celebrating when we could because there was nothing else to do. And I was taking a break from alcohol. I had just celebrated my second dry January and discovered some really amazing non-alcoholic brands. So early friends of Sèshay now, Gia, Ken, Toast. I loved the product. I loved their messaging. And fast forward a year later, 2021, I founded Sèshay, which is a nod to the French word for dry, because I saw that if I was exploring my relationship with alcohol and these brands had the products that were non-alcoholic, I guessed that other people probably felt the same way. And I saw the concept very clearly for a specialty multi-brand store that focused on alcohol flexibility.
What was your first steps in terms of actually founding the store itself and starting a a e-com business?
Well, I bought the domain name in 2020, and then in 2021, I wanted to test the concept. So I launched Sèshay.com with a multi-brand specialty retail shopping experience to do home delivery and shipping nationally, and just started driving my car around Charleston, dropping off non-alcoholic brands to these customers, and there was a demand for it. And the next step from there was, let's see if this could work in a physical format. So I did a pop-up for Dry January 2022, and it was very successful.
That's awesome. That's great. That's amazing. And in terms of when you were, what was that like when you were, outreaching to brands, trying to get them on the platform, trying to get them on the e-commerce site, and as well as were you purchasing product wholesale, or was it a bit more of like a marketplace?
Yeah, at the time, there wasn't a marketplace. So the way that we buy today is much different. 3 years ago, I was going directly to the brands. I was pitching them on my idea for Sèchey. Founders would lead me through tastings one-on-one. So Connor from Ross's Fada and I did a tasting. I got to know the founding team behind Gia, Philia, French Bloom. The list goes on and on. I haven't even talked about Spirit. So I probably launched with about 30 brands, but I was buying them direct and storing them in my house. So early press shows me in my dining room with bookshelves filled with product, and me talking about, I want to launch a non-alcoholic bottle shop. At the time, I started to talk to a few angel investors, but I was bootstrapping.
Wow. And so, and how did you approach on then actually fulfilling those orders and actually being able to get the word out and to actually, satisfy that demand, or actually judge if there even was demand, right?
Yeah. The customers reached out and were so excited. I was packaging orders by myself on the weekends and nights. This is a very common early entrepreneur story. I held a day job. I used my very little savings to buy the products, and the response was so amazing. And new customers would tell me their story about alcohol, or how I got them through Dry January, or that they were so excited to celebrate. And there was a true enthusiasm that really kept me going, right? Because nobody wants to work 70, 80 hours a week, but I believed in my vision. And then the service, changing people's lives.
How also did you think about, from the curation standpoint, or picking the right brands? What was your, how did you think about in terms of what the right brands were to partner? For example, I know that you started off with 30 brands. Were all 30 brands were brands that you thought were great, that you really enjoyed, or enjoyed their, or really like their brand positioning, really like their product? Or was it a bit more, hey, let me actually just have a variety of products on the site and see which actually ones are doing well versus one that's not?
I definitely curated from the beginning. I looked at branding, flavor profile, assortment. It's not that much different than the way I do it today. And what would I drink, but also where I saw opportunity for others, right? Is it the bar cart? Is it ready to drink? Is it an alternative wine? Is it a dealcoholized wine? Do you need to make cocktails? What's a mixer? All of those things, I just kind of pulled a little bit in every category and wanted to see what sold. So I also wanted to get the story, because I love hearing the stories. A lot of these brands are very young and are founded within the past 5 years. And more are entering the category today. So it's exciting to be able to support other founders, but hear their story directly.
Totally. Since you're building now a portfolio of brands, starting with 30 brands and also expanding and selling a lot of product, I'd imagine you're also collecting a lot of insights in terms of what's maybe selling or what's not selling, what's maybe resonating with consumers, what's not really resonating with consumers. Was there particular insights that helped you? Because you obviously eventually launched Sèchey, the CPG line, right? And which we'll obviously get to. But what were some of the insights that you kind of learned from being a retailer?
Yeah, so definitely learned how consumers like to shop this category. Learned uh like what their backgrounds were, right? Like what's their age, their mindset, generation, what brought them into and what brought them or got them interested in alcohol-free products to begin with. So we know now, based on 3 years of data, what sells. We have a little laboratory. So I love having that rich data across brands and seeing both Sèchey and the brands we carry all evolve, because we're learning more about like what is this societal shift? How do we meet customer demand? And I also see a lot of supply chain issues because we are young brands and it's hard to anticipate the demand. So, a lot of good problems to have.
How did you think about in terms of what was working or what was selling versus not? Was there any kind of insights in terms of the actual form factor of the product? Whether did RTD, for example, sell better than bottles or mixers or other form factors? Was there any kind of insight there that kind of helped you lead when it came to launching Sèchey that helped you make decisions when it came to launching Sèchey the brand?
Yeah, so we believe that wine is the opportunity. It's very celebratory. It's how you socialize around like a physical bottle. So, and we saw in the store that the wine category was driving a lot of our sales, and ready to drinks it's a very crowded category. So naturally for Sèchey being a premium brand and wanting to build a portfolio versus a singular product, that's where we focused our energy, was in dealcoholized wine. It's also where I think the most innovation is happening. And while, NA beer is really the lion's share of the market right now, I think that we're going to start to see, especially because Sèchey has a very strong female consumer, right? And women make 80% of the buying decisions. Like wine to me is like a female drinking behavior. So that's how I decided on non-alcoholic wine.
So, okay, so you decided on non-alcoholic wine, and also in terms of form factor, whether it's RTD or whether it's bottles, what kind of influenced you when you thought about what that first SKU was going to be? I understand that you've now gone on to actually create a portfolio or starting to create a portfolio, but what was like that first product when you were thinking, all right, we have to get this right?
Well, the wine, like if you look at traditional wine and you walk into a wine store, there are hundreds of thousands of wineries and brands, and it's like a very lovely, like non-competitive set in some ways. So I felt that Sèchey could sit next to Shirley, to Joyous, to French Bloom, to Primo Pavé, and not be competitive, and it would actually elevate that. So that's how I looked at it. And then with ready to drinks, there were just so many great brands that I loved already. I didn't want to compete against them. What we would rather do, and what we decided to do, was to launch exclusive variety packs for Sèchey, and that's what we did in partnership with Target, so that you could drive trial behavior and taste the different products from ready to drinks, and that worked really well.
That's awesome. I think, and I'd love to expand more in terms of that Target partnership and also launching these variety packs. But going from, I know that you're still a retailer. You still have, Sèchey.com. And I know that you've expanded to having a store in Charleston, and also have done pop-ups as well in New York. But Sèchey, the CPG company, Sèchey, the brand itself. Talk to me a little bit, because going from retailer to brand to actually selling a product yourself, right? That's quite a leap, right? In terms of selling other people's products, and also versus selling your own products. Talk to me how you thought about as well, thinking about who the right manufacturer or partner was, or even finding that person and actually building out the product, and actually just building out the product from scratch?
So my background is in luxury apparel and retail. So the way that I thought about it was taking a page out of luxury apparel. Like a really strong luxury apparel brand has wholesale, they do collaborations, they have a retail store. And what we've seen in the past is that a brand will go e-commerce first and then try to open stores, right? And recognize they need stores. These CPG brands typically will have started online and then open stores, and I wanted to do the reverse. So it is a very unique story. It's like, why aren't we launching a multi-brand concept in a category that's brand new that we really don't understand? Do that first and then do the reverse, which is launch a product. So what we were able to do because of our position in the industry is partner with the brands and white label our products, because building a product from scratch, that's like the next frontier for Sèchey, where we own our formula and we own end-to-end supply chain. But right now it's partnering, and that's really strong, right? Like we can support the brands by placing orders for our own product.
Yeah. So he talks a little bit about that, about what that entails on the white label side, and as well as how you thought about which brands as well to partner with, and then to eventually have Sèchey's line be.
Yeah. So the way I thought about it, I looked at our data. I looked at the relationships with the brands, where they were in their brand life cycle, what I thought would resonate with the consumer. And, we're all still testing and learning. So I can't say it's an exact science. It's still evolving. We're still building out our portfolio with different partners. But it's because there hasn't been a new category in beverage really in a while. This is a new and exciting thing that it's less risky to work with existing vendor partners and brands.
Yeah, totally. I guess how did you think about which I guess products you actually wanted to launch when it comes to flavors, and which obviously you have deep partners with a number of non-alc brands, but how did you kind of determine that, okay, this is the actual one that I want to do, or if you also maybe had tweaks when it came to the actual profile of the flavor or how it tasted?
Yeah, it's because I looked at production capabilities, volume, taste, customer demand, and I knew where the top selling vendors were and who could handle it. So that's kind of how I went. And then again, like when we launched our product, it was, almost like over a year ago. So things have changed and evolved, and it's important for Sèchey as we evolve to keep our pulse on what's happening and where consumer demand is going. So by like launching a portfolio, we're able to really shift and grow with the demand instead of like going all in on one specific formula, product, and size, format.
Can you talk a little bit about what that relationship is like with, well, first of all, how did that relationship, because I know that you launched in Target, which is incredible, and tell me about how that came about. You launched nationally with Sèchey products. What was Target like interested in? How did they approach you? Did you approach them? How has that relationship kind of begun? And what was like the idea in terms of the actual products that you wanted to launch? I understand there's a collaboration in it, and it's almost like a taste tester for people to actually try to actually expose themselves to non-alc. But talk to me a little bit about what the method was in terms of how you thought about Target and how they thought about non-alc as well.
Yeah, I'll speak to what's publicly available for the Sèchey and Target relationship. But, Target is a trendsetter. They are an exceptionally run organization. They as a partner aligned very well with my vision for Sèchey, which was to bring alternative beverages and non-alcoholic brands to your local neighborhood. And like in the absence of me being able to do that across the country, partnering with Target and creating a wellness focused assortment is the perfect way to launch Sèshay nationally.
How also do you think about as well, expanding your line through Target as well, and maybe launching more products through Target? Because I'd imagine, yes, you have to obviously pay attention to your hero products, but at the same time, you want to also have a portfolio of products, and you might have cash flow constraints in terms of what to actually when it makes sense to actually double down on the products that are selling versus launching new products. How do you balance those two things?
So the vision for Sèshay was always to have vertical product. The way that materialized was through the launch of a dealcoholized wine, but we see the opportunity for, and we have done this in the store, ancillary product that's branded Sèshay, right? So glassware, corkscrews, cocktail shakers. We have candles in the store, matches, like anything that allows you to socialize and celebrate. And Sèshay means dryish. So I'm actually wearing a necklace that says dryish. We trademarked dryish. We also trademarked drink less, live more. And we're building a true brand and a brand identity, which is bigger than individual products. And when you think about, household names, which is like my goal for Sèshay, synonymous with, it could be a verb, like I'm going to sèchey tonight, meaning I'm not drinking, but I'm going to have alcohol-free alternatives. And I have friends that use that. That's a big, audacious goal, but I don't see why we couldn't do that. And I protected Sèshay globally in multiple classes so that we could realize that vision. So you can walk into a Sèshay and find alternative beverages, you can find functional, you can find alcohol, you can find THC, you can find glassware, napkins, like anything for a celebration. Or if you walk in for dry January and you want to explore a spirit that you want to keep on your bar cart for the year, like that's like the kind of high-end, educationally driven experience we want to find at Sèshay. And there is not a concept today that does that. Non-alcohol allows us to do things that you can't do in a liquor store. That's the more exciting things for me. Whether it's with another national retail partner like Target, global partner, you can taste and try and explore this category in a way that you can't really do with alcohol, but we still carry alcohol because we recognize that most of our customers drink traditional alcohol.
With building a portfolio, since as well as you also, have a lot of relationships with other brands, and you also sell other brands too, and you also are an enabler in terms of getting other non-alc brands even into Target. How do you think about, because you're so close with a number of brands and you admire these brands so much, building your own brands too? How do you think about partnership, and also, down the line, will there be actually will there actually be some friction or even some competition or seeing these brands as competitive?
Well, I think if you look at private label in retail, they can coexist with other brands. So far it's been very collaborative, and then allows Sèshay to offer things that the brand cannot do from a direct to consumer site. We could offer samplers. We could offer mixed cocktail kits from different brands. Those types of things we're setting the foundation for. And in order for Sèshay to be a destination for discovery of the best in non-alc, we need those relationships with brands. So I'm here to elevate and support brands, not necessarily compete, and that we're all learning together. So, I haven't, had anyone say they, are very negative about the Sèshay brand launch. It's like, in order to support the operations of the retail store, we have to have those margins.
How also do you think about margins as well, and as well as making sure, because I know that Sèshay, well, I guess actually, how do you think about price? I know that Sèshay is obviously a premium product, and And so how do you think about price of Sèchey versus maybe other non-alcs, and as well as how is non-alc price more broadly versus alcohol?
I'll answer that last question first. Non-alc is typically priced at a premium, and for Sèchey, we don't have price resistance in the physical store. So the way that I think about margins is that, if someone's taking the time to come into the store, they're not price checking. And if that's what they're doing, Sèchey is not necessarily a destination, because for us to offer the level of experience and education, like, we need to have well-trained sales associates, a beautiful spot, convenient. So where it makes it difficult is when you're trying to execute omni-channel, because every brand is going to have direct-to-consumer business. Most brands are on Amazon. Most brands now are to be carried in mass retail. So our premium pricing, it's difficult to make the leap to e-com. And that's okay for us today. I think it's a problem we're going to need to solve long-term. Like, how do we be competitive in every channel? And how do we compete with convenience the way that you see on Amazon? Because truly we can't. So it's got to be about discovery. It's something different that you can't get from the brand directly or on Amazon. And that translates for e-com to margins. Like, you're already working on thin margins. We all know that e-commerce customer acquisition is very expensive today. It's very hard to acquire those customers after you spend the money. And with beverage, not only are you looking at restrictions, even when it's non-alcoholic, to shipping to different states. Like, you can't ship non-alcoholic beer to South Carolina. And that's just one example of many. But like, it's heavy and it breaks and it's liquid. Like, it doesn't really lend itself well to e-commerce. While we do it, I think there's a lot of room for improvement for not only just Sèchey, but just in general. If we were going to become a marketplace, like, how do we offer unique things?
Really appreciate that. Emily, I'm going to ask you our traditional question on the podcast. What would you value more? $100 of COGS, $100 of Sèchey, or $100 cash?
Of like cost of goods for Sèchey?
Cost of goods for Sèchey.
Yeah, I would value that more.
Love it. Yes, because you because you can sell that much more than $100. Cash.
Yeah, anyone has $100 in their wallet. Not everybody has $100 of COGS for Sèchey and 100%.
Emily, thank you. And there you have it. It was a pleasure chatting with Emily. Emily, thanks again so much for coming on the podcast. I hope that podcast episode was helpful. Not only do we produce content that hopefully inspires or is helpful in running your business, but we also throw events around the country, bringing people together that are in the emerging consumer space, that are SMBs, that are investors, that are partners, that are people trying to help these companies grow and foster and become iconic brands. Check out manufactured.com/events to sign up to the list to be part of these events. Manufactured.com/events. Also, the link is in the show notes. You can also find Sèchey's links in the show notes too, if you want to check out the platform that she's built or even purchase her product in Target. Thank you very much.